Well, hello, and thank you very much for clicking on this video today. So today, what we're going to be talking about is defend our juries and how many of their activists have been hit with police raids, 5 police raids, over alleged Palestine Action videos. I'm also going to be talking about defend our juries in terms of what they do and how they are basically fighting for your rights if you live in the UK, and rights in general. I'd also argue because rights are an international thing and governments do take cues from each other. So, as you might know, juries are 12 randomly selected citizens from all walks of life that are put into the heart of the criminal justice system to decide if someone's guilty or not guilty. And so, over the last few years, when juries have heard evidence as to why people have taken direct action in relation to things like climate change, racial injustice, or to stop the genocide in Gaza, they have very often reached not guilty verdicts. And the thing is that juries have the right of equity. And what does that mean? What it really means is juries can decide not to convict if convicting them goes against their moral principles, in a nutshell. And they can completely ignore what the judge has to say. It is perfectly legal and perfectly legitimate. And the government and the police and the Crown Prosecution Service has, over the past few years, been trying to clamp down on the jury being reminded on that, and the jury's even been given the ability to do it. So these kind of verdicts are deeply embarrassing to the government and to arms manufacturers, to oil industries, and to lobbyists and all these basically the big business capitalist interests that fund the government are inherently embarrassed by this, and have been working non-stop to kind of stop them. One thing to bear in mind is that people in the past have been banned from using the word climate change in court, and have indeed been jailed for defying that prohibition. Normal legal defences have been removed for defendants. The idea that that a defendant should be able to present their case has been completely pushed aside, turning jury trials into show trials in which juries have no meaningful role to play. And people have been arrested and indeed tried to be prosecuted for displaying the centuries-old constitutional principle of jury equity, the principle that a jury can acquit a defendant as a matter of conscience, irrespective of what the judge has to say. And one judge, as the Defend Our Juries website even has noted, in February, even threatened a jury with criminal proceedings if they applied what is perfectly legal to do to the facts of a climate protest case. And so what we're going to do now is talk about the Defend Our Juries activists that have been hit with these 5 police raids. So the campaign group has said that the raids were linked to Palestine Action solidarity messages. Now, I have watched some of them. I have seen this. And all these people are doing is saying, we support Palestine Action. That's all they're doing. Now, Palestine Action have been unjustly designated as a terrorist organisation, and they've been arrested for basically showing solidarity, which Defend Our Juries has had a campaign by saying if we get enough people to share messages of saying we stand with Palestine Action, we oppose their prohibition as a terrorist organisation, this is completely unjust, it will help to push back against the government's crackdown. So, as Defend Our Juries have said, Defend Our Juries can confirm that at least 3 home raids have taken place this morning. Individuals have shared online videos declaring support for the unjustly prescribed direct action group Palestine Action were arrested. Saving lives is not terrorism. And they then posted later that so far the homes of 5 people have been raided out of more than 60 individuals who have shared the videos declaring their support for Palestine Action. All have taken place in the Midlands, and they said that they won't be intimidated and they will release more of, they quote, these terror videos soon. So the campaigners are there to defend British rights and liberties against an authoritarian regime, which is what we have. When it comes to Palestine, certainly. And their website, as it puts quite well, from the UK's government plans to severely restrict jury trials, which is another point I will delve into right now, which is that the British government has said, we plan to restrict jury trials. Now, their big reasoning for this is, there's a big backlog of cases and we're going to do it to try and speed that up, even though analysis has demonstrated, actually, that won't do much good in terms of speeding up trials. And there's a much more obvious way to clear up the cases, which is, well, maybe you should fund more judges, more courts, more resources and materials, and you will be able to clear the backlog faster. That's bleeding obvious. It's a very obvious and deliberate attempt to restrict jury trials so that judges, many of whom are corrupt and have no real understanding of the world, will just hand out unjust sentences to people who have done nothing more than exercising their right of freedom of speech. And as they go on to judges removing legal defences in activist trials, and the Home Office criminalising protest groups or designating them as terrorist organisations, the British justice system is being weaponised to serve corporate interests against our democracy and civil liberties, which it is, I agree. And as we said, a major part of their work is opposing the prescription of Palestine Action. They then go on to say, the unjust ban on Palestine Action was not an accident. It is part of a strategic effort for the UK to be able to ban whichever group they don't agree with, which is basically what this is. Once groups like Palestine Action are banned, then what other protest or direct action group is safe? Once this organisation has been declared a terrorist organisation based on nothing, based on fucking nothing. They caused minor damage at a military arms depot. Oh no! I forget. They spray painted some planes. How dare they? How dare they? Hang them all! They spray paint. They hurt those planes' feelings. How fucking dare they? They then go on to say that the ban will inevitably lead into further attacks on basic rights. And I'll quote them. They have now also begun sentencing direct actionists as terrorists without them ever being convicted on any terrorism charge, which I did a video about that some weeks ago. If we do not oppose our government's attempts to corrupt UK law, who will they choose to ban next? Trade unions, striking workers, disability rights groups? So, one thing to bear in mind is that they have posted a video of one of their activists who was targeted on the July 10th raid, so it happened yesterday. And this was a man called John, and this man made rounds on social media because counter-terrorism police, I think it was a few months ago, in a Palestine Action rally, or demonstration rather, was in a wheelchair and holding a sign saying, I support Palestine Action, and was mobbed by a group of thugs, also known as the police, and pulled from his wheelchair. And this guy's a terrorist. A man in a wheelchair with a sign is literally being declared a terrorist. And so, this is a little bit of a rant. But the reason why things like Palestine Action is important is because there's a bigger picture here, as I've already kind of outlined. And the bigger picture is, once organisations like Palestine Action are classified as terrorist organisations, then who else is next? And who is safe? And people always go on about, they did break some minor property, and a policewoman suffered minor injuries. Accidental minor injuries, I would point out, and that was found by the jury in that particular case. But people like the suffragettes burnt down buildings. One of them threw themselves in front of a horse. The king, I believe. They did real property damage, and we don't condemn them as terrorists. Indeed, they're seen as heroes. So how is this any different? All these people are doing is protesting a genocide, and the government, who authorises and indeed supports this genocide, who is very happy for big business to supply the Israeli government with weapons of war, weapons that will just murder people, have the gall to declare people that are protesting this as terrorists, where in fact they're the terrorists, if there is one. They're basically using the arms and forces of the state to arrest people based on nothing, to attack people, to brutalize them. If anyone should be charged with anything, it's them. And the Israelis who are also conducting the genocide in Gaza, which they support. But anyway, thank you very much for listening to this little rant today, and I will catch you later in another video. So, bye-bye.